Insurance isn't one size fits all, and shopping for it shouldn't feel like squeezing into something that just doesn't fit. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they show you options that fit your budget. Enough hunting for discounts, trying to calculate rates, and tinkering with coverages. Maybe you're picking out your very first policy, or maybe you're just looking for something that works better for you and your family. Either way, they make it simple to see your options. No guesswork, no surprises. Ready to see how easy and fun shopping for car insurance can be? Visit Progressive.com and give the Name Your Price tool a try. Take the stress out of shopping and find coverage that fits your life, on your terms. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
Pay's checkout is offered by your banks and credit unions. So when you shop online at participating merchants, your cards appear in one place. Pay's. It checks out. Activation required. See Pays.com to learn more. Terms and conditions apply.
AI is moving fast across the enterprise. But without visibility, it's just chaos. Different tools, different models, different teams using AI in completely different ways. ServiceNow turns that chaos into control. With the AI Control Tower, you see all your AI across the business in one place. What it's doing, what it's done, and what it's about to do. So you stay in control. To put AI to work for people, visit ServiceNow.com.
Hey there, Duke fans. Welcome to episode 837 of the Duke Basketball Roundup. Jason Evans here with you. Donald Wine joins me. Donald, we have a special interview on tap for the folks today, don't we?
A very special one. I think this is a really cool conversation that we just recorded in all transparency. But I'm looking forward for everybody to listen to this because it's not just about one of our new Duke players, but also about the future of basketball in a way, and we use that by talking to somebody who a lot of people should know from the past of college basketball.
Yeah, exactly. You're about to hear our interview with Ruben Boumtje-Boumtje, played at Georgetown for 4 years, very successful, played for a few years in the NBA, played overseas, and currently is working with the Basketball Africa League. I believe he's based out of Senegal, if memory serves me. And he also happens to be the father of Joachim Boumtje-Boumtje, JoJo, as we call him, who we have talked about extensively on this podcast. You're about to hear us ask him a little bit about JoJo's game, ask him about his son's development over the course of time, a whole bunch of really interesting questions. Here is our interview conducted literally just minutes ago with the father of Joachim Boumtje-Boumtje, Ruben Boumtje-Boumtje.
Ruben, we thank you for your time, and we want to start. We have kind of two sets of questions. One about some about your son, and then later on in the other half, we're going to talk about the Basketball Africa League and your work that you're doing there, and just kind of what that's like from your perspective, and how that can help facilitate some of the future of basketball, not just here in the United States, but around the world. But let's start with Joachim and JoJo, as they are affectionately calling him. First off, you spent time here in high school, here in D.C., before you went to Georgetown. You went to Georgetown for 4 years under John Thompson. So you went the traditional college route in the United States. Was that something that was important to you and your family that Joachim had the opportunity to have a similar experience?
Yes, absolutely was. He's he's been a little maybe culture. We always wanted to kind of have our kids, my wife and I, live in different culture, honestly, to live in different country. Obviously, I'm from Africa. My wife is from the US, and Joaquin was born in Germany. Then he lived in the US for a while, and before going to Spain. So it was always been important for us as a family, if the opportunity was there, for him and his sibling to kind of spend different culture. But also when it comes to, basketball academics, because as you pointed out, I went through the pathways of, high school and college, and I still think that it's one of the great pathway, because you learn about yourself, you learn about other people, it kind of help you grow not only as a basketball player but also as a person. So we always had that in mind. Even the last 3 years when he was in Barcelona, it was always, how do we put him back in the pathway of going to college and really experience what college is about and grow from there and grow as a person, as a basketball player. So that was very important to us, and I'm glad that we're able to do it, and see our older son, at this point in his life, going through Duke and starting a new life is very exciting.
Let me ask you very quickly about the decision to send him to FC Barcelona. What what else did you all look at? What was that decision like, and what do you think he ultimately learned from being there for a couple of years in really one of the top development programs in the world?
Yeah, it's also one of those things that even before we had came, my wife and I used to tell her that if you have boys who play basketball, I would love for them to learn also basketball as in the United States, for example, right? Because I did play in Europe, I played in Africa, I played in the US. So I think you always can get something very positive from all those experience and kind of grow. It just happened that, things work out really well. I got an opportunity to work for the BAL in 2023. And Joaquin was 14. God just made it happen, to us. It was just that prime opportunity for him to go to a different system than the United States and learn. So we looked at Barcelona. We were looking I was, because my office is in Dakar, I work in Senegal. There is two things that I wanted. I wanted a place that is one flight from Dakar to wherever, so I can go see the family, and also a basketball environment ecosystem where I thought, he can continue to grow, right, as a 14-year-old. So it happens that Alex Therese, who run the academy at Barcelona, used to work with me actually when I was with the 76ers G League team, and he was back in Barcelona already. So we just connected, and then it kind of make it easier there, because I was also looking possibly sending him in France or even Italy or Germany. So those were some of the area we're looking to. So I think having that connection with the Barcelona guys kind of make that easier, and then that for me in the Barcelona, obviously, as a club, right, the reputation that they have in terms of, in basketball, not in basketball, even in soccer, and the development kind of make that easy. And I think the important thing to me there, and then I think what he got out of going to Barcelona is, maybe, if I can resume it, is twofold. Is one, the opportunity already at an early age, when you get at 14, to play with and against kids who were a lot older than him. Because what happened there is some of the teams like Barcelona or Real Madrid, they generally have the best talent in Europe. So if they play the competition at the same age, the game are not that exciting. They kind of demolish everyone. So what they do is they get those kids already to play up, 1 or 2 years up, right? Or even more. So I think, as soon as he got there at 14, he was already playing wave against guys who were like 15, 16. And every year he just keep going up. And then he was playing against professional player at 15, right? They were like 30 years old, 25 years old. Like it was like a fourth professional league, but that's the experience to play against grown men and getting the confidence that, you can play with them. You're not physically strong like them, maybe that athletic. But I think what it does to them, it gives them a lot of confidence, right? And this past year, Spain started the Liga U22, the under 22 league, basically like a version of college, a league in the US. And seeing him kind of thrive there as a 16-year-old and doing well against grown men, I think that really helped him and his teammate as well. I'm sure all of the young kid in Spain kind of grow maybe a little faster, right? And be able to play with contact, with physicality, and be confident in their own skills. So I think he got it out of it. And also, I think the basketball IQ, because in Europe, as you guys are aware, it's a little more tactical how they play. It's a little more team-oriented how they play. And then coming from the US, where he was playing point guard, and going to a system now where they were learning, they read the game and all this thing, I think just can help him just keep working and having a good basketball IQ. So to me, those two things are really the things that he got the most out of that system, and I think they're serving him well today.
Well, you just described a fascinating scenario, right, at Barcelona. He could have stayed in that system and thrived for another year before, coming in as an 18-year-old into college. But as it stands right now, he just barely turned 17. He's now going to Duke and has 2 years that he has to stay in college before he's eligible for the NBA draft. What were some of the determining factors behind making that decision? And maybe give some insight as to what John Shire and the coaching staff kind of talked about with JoJo to make, to kind of seal that deal and make it where he decided to give up 2 years in Barcelona to come play college for 2 years.
Yeah, the first determining factor was that, which is always the main and will remain the main determining factor for him, it was just development still, right? So although to me or to us, I think the Barcelona system is great, and the European system in general, when it comes to, like I said, learning the game, playing within the system, I felt like there was a need for him to continue to improve more also on like some individual skills, right? I play a little bit out of the system, a little bit, a little out of chaotic structure, and just develop some part of his games that I thought like he would. I thought that going back to US would benefit him more on certain part of his game to keep developing than staying in the system in Barcelona. So that was really the main reason there. And initially, we actually were looking to send him to high school, just to go to normal high school. But then we realized, my wife said one day, like academically, he's a year ahead because since COVID, he's kind of been doing his own thing, online school at his own pace. And he was a year ahead. We thought, we're not 100% sure when we started the recruiting process, but we're fairly sure that he had all the classes needed to start college. So I think once we crossed that and knew that he can go to college from an academic standpoint, we just thought that was the best, it would be the best path for him instead of go to high school. So you go to college for 2 years. The first year, you're already in the college system. And again, to me, it's the same playing against guys who are, older, faster. And that, I think, to me, was going to be should be a better preparation for him for this year that was supposed to be his senior year, that for next year, as when it's supposed to be the true freshman, I think it'll be better ready, for his second year. So that was the thought process there. And we had a conversation with John multiple times. And, I think Duke have, a little bit probably separate themselves in terms of developing like versatile type of player over the year. So I think that was a big attraction there for Joachim and for me and my family as well. And the type of player that he is, you guys can see. So we just thought is the best place for him. And Duke has a plan for him to develop him. We talk about all of that in different area and stuff, and just keep developing and improving even the things that at this age is doing well, right? That it never stopped to me. So Yeah, and he's one of those kids who I think he like pressure. He also like the idea of going to Duke and be in a pressure spot. I think it helped him thrive, and yeah, it's exciting. We'll see how the next 2 years unfold.
By the way, Duke, you're 7 feet tall. Duke lists your son on the roster as 7 feet 2 inches tall. Do you believe that? Is he taller than you now?
Yeah, so when I would go to Barcelona, when I'm in Dakar and go to visit, one of the things that he did almost religiously was he would stand next to me to see how tall he is.
We all
The
do that
last
with our dads.
the last couple of years, like as soon as I walked in, like let's take a pictures, right? And he was so proud when he finally got as tall as me, and he was even prouder when he got taller than me.
So he is taller than you now.
He is, yeah, I think the seven toes with shoes. I believe that's how we measure in the US. But he's been a little bit taller, slightly taller than me, the last, I don't know, maybe 6 months or so, somewhere there.
So
And
with the hair, he's like seven. He's probably 7'4",
yeah,
7'5".
the hair is like 7'4" or so, but he's yeah, he get a great laugh at it. It was like almost he was so proud that he's taller than me.
I want to ask you really quickly now. You are someone who has seen and observed basketball, a basketball evaluator for many, many years. Give us an assessment of your son's game. Take off the dad hat, put on the evaluator hat. What do you see from JoJo's game? And start really with his potential. And then after you give us what he does best, I want to talk a little bit about what he needs to work on. But go ahead and give us what he does best right away.
Yeah, no, I think what he does best is at 17-year-old to me, he understands the game. He really understands the game. He has a really high basketball IQ. He's unselfish. He has a point guard mentality that was done on purpose when I started training when he was 8 or 9 year old. There's a lot of things that went into how to train him and the philosophy that I had. I think shooting, he has taken a big leap in shooting, but it's something we work every year. So I think he's shooting pretty well now, but I think there's still room to continue to develop there. He's just an overall versatile guy, right? The ball handling is something that uh, I hammer every day because of my own experience as a 7 foot African kid, just being put on the block and running and jumping. I wanted things different for him, and obviously always also where the game is going. So I think the thing that he does well, really, I think maybe to me the biggest thing is like he knows how to play within the team, be unselfish, and also when it is time to also be aggressive and look for his opportunity. I think to me this is great, right? Yes, he can shoot, he can handle the ball, all those things. He can rebound, he can block shot. There's still some improvement there for me, for him that he needs to do. Defensively, depending on matchup, he can guard several positions, depending on how the matchups are. So there's a lot of things he can do, but I keep telling him it doesn't stop. Just you have to keep working and getting better and better. There's no one side or one facet of his game that he can be like, oh, I'm good at it no more, right? And then you want to talk about things that he need to develop, which are the reason why we looking to transition to Barcelona from Barcelona to the US. To me, it's like the mid-range game, right? I know the analytics, I work in the NBA, I know what people talk about, but I think to me, I want to develop more the off the dribble shooting, right? Be able to beat somebody one-on-one and get into a jump shot. That's a big part of development that I see for him and I want to do. Different finishes around the rim is things that we worked on, but he didn't get opportunity really to show that in Barcelona because they are just a different system, right? In the US, a different system. So those are the area of finishing around the rim, floaters, those kind of things, of the dribble stuff that you need to continue to improve. And he can do those things, but I would love for him to do that in volume, right? And kind of that be natural for him more than it is done.
So one quick follow-up. I'm guessing you've spoken to him since he arrived at Duke, and what does he tell you about what it's like playing over there? He's playing with probably, I mean, I know he had very talented teammates in Barcelona, but this is a step up. What's he telling you about how things are going so far? Who's impressing him among his teammates? What are you hearing about how things are going at Duke over the summer as that team is coming together?
Yeah, honestly, we haven't talked much about it because he kind of got there and they're trying to transition him a little slowly, right? Because he had a really long season. I mean, he played it's like 72 games in Barcelona during the regular season
Wow.
before even going to USA basketball. So he had a long year, and the rightfully they were trying to ease him in a little bit slowly, but he did tell me that the physicality is something different here, which I expected, right? Because I think in Barcelona, the Liga U22 league, yes, there were, some, 20, 22 years old who are physical, but physicality in the US is different, which I expected, right? Especially even for him as a 17-year-old. But, to me, it's part of the process, part of what he needs to go through. And once he get comfortable physically with his teammate, everything else, will fall in place. So he told me, no, he's doing pretty well. He's doing pretty well with them, and yeah, it's different speed of the game he talked about. But I think when I think of them, they ended about the season in Spain, USA basketball in Turkey. I can see even the difference there already. Right, the time that he spent the USA team, the way he played in Turkey, you can see, already some improvement in some of those things like speed because he kind of started to play with American kid a little bit more in the USA basketball. They're so talented. And I think that the fact that to me that he was able to adjust that quickly with them in Turkey speaks also about his IQ, but also just like his ability to kind of like adapt quickly, right? So I expect that Dirk is going to be the same. I expect it's going to take a bit of time for him, but he's not far behind. And who is he impressed with? Man, we haven't talked much about it, but he just said that yeah, they're all really good. And I said, yeah, they're all really good. They are good players, so they're all really good.
I mean, on the physicality level, you just got to send him some YouTube clips of you during your Georgetown days because those John Thompson teams were as physical as they come. So just that I'm sure he can benefit from that.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here. We'll be back with more of our interview with Ruben Boumtje-Boumtje in just a moment. We're going to be talking to him a bit more about the development of basketball on the continent of Africa. Stick around.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel, maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
In the time we have remaining, we wanted to switch a little bit to the Basketball Africa League and talk about your work there. And just overall, the BAL has become a league where players are using it as a pipeline to college. We had Kamen Malawach a couple years ago who played in the BAL before he came to Duke. I know that BAL is an NBA initiative trying to get more African players into the NBA, but how do you think the league can continue to be a college pipeline as well?
Say the last part again, sorry.
How do you think the league can continue to serve as a pipeline to players and getting in college?
Yes. Listen, the mission really of the BL, we're trying to build one of the best league in the world in the next, hopefully 5-10 years in the long term. This is really the ultimate goal of the BL. I know, right now, yes, we have a lot of players who use this as a pipeline, a platform, to go to either Europe or to go to college. And it's totally fine. It's totally fine for us. Because we see also more talent coming from college or the G League or Europe to play in the BL to go to this league. But the ultimate goal of the BAL is to be one of the best leagues in the world. And that's what we're really building, right? We're going right now to a transition phase for the next 2 or 3 years where we're going to have more permanent team, just like the NBA has. It's not going to be fully closed like the NBA because agreement with FIBA would be some open spot. And it's just 6 years in, and it's take a long time. You guys know how long it's taking the WNBA to be where they are today, but it's really the long-term plan, and we want as much as possible have the African talent really develop on the continent, right? Develop on the continent and make this league one of the best. So the very, very best will go to the NBA and should go to the NBA, right? Some of them will find themselves maybe in Europe with bigger team in Europe. But we really want this league in the future to be able to compete with the best league in Europe or in Asia, where it's not a matter of just going and getting contract money because it's more money there. We want to create that ecosystem here because there's an abundance of raw talent in Africa. And yeah, that's really our mission, our goal here.
Well, I mean, we've seen some really significant basketball prospects come out of Africa in recent years. In fact, your son played at Barcelona with Mohamed Dembélé, who some say is the best young prospect in the entire world. What do you think is fueling the rise of African basketball players?
I think it's just more opportunity and more visibility that they're getting. Listen, I was one of those, right? I was one of those when I started to play, I was 15 years old, one of those raw talent who just got an opportunity to go to the US because somebody watched, some videos, right? So today, the social media, all that stuff Africa is going to be the youngest continent in a few years. And the talent is everywhere, right? They're playing soccer, but they're also seeing what basketball can do, and for them and the family. So we have more and more kids also going into basketball. They have the ability now or more means to watch, NBA games. When I grew up in Africa, you couldn't see NBA games unless somebody recorded a tape and passed it. It was maybe a game that was, like a week or month old, right? But with technology, where they have more access to NBA games, kids are seeing more and are seeing that the talent also coming from Africa, the Joel Embiid, the Pascal Siakam, the Kuminga, they identify with all those African players and they're seeing how well they're doing. So they're thinking, hey, I can also be one of those guys, right? So I think more of them are coming into the ecosystem to learn basketball, and there's more opportunity for them, presented to them to either develop in Africa or go somewhere else, right? And I think that's what you're seeing now across Africa.
The last question I have for you as we get out of here is, the BAL initially, it felt like a lot of people thought it was just a league to introduce a lot of African players to the game. Well, as you know, and what we've seen over the last 6 years is a lot of the players in the league are already established. They just need that platform to be able to improve against better competition. Where do you think the biggest gap exists right now for players playing in the BAL who want to eventually either go to college or eventually, of course, the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest gap is because the BAL right now, we are a 3-month league. Really just a 3-month league, right? And we're trying to figure out how to grow this league to an 8, 9, 10-month league, and we'll get there. And I think to me, is the opportunity to play more games is needed. I think that's a gap. I think the more kids play games, the longer they can play around the year. That's how they get better, right? So the infrastructure also is another piece of it, right? Because we currently playing in cities where we have infrastructure, where we have the right gym, and it's not that many so far, right? So there's a bit of restriction there. So I think if we're able, or when we're going to be able to have more stadium across Africa, have this league be longer, have more games, I think this is going to help all this African talent, to be able to play against each other, against better players. And I think that's how you grow. And from there, like I said, those who will be, who want to go to college in the US will be able to go to college in the US and be better players than maybe the one, that are currently in the ecosystem, because they would have gone through a different development cycle in Africa where they actually get to play maybe 10 months out of 12, right? And they get to play against other better players and they coach better with better coaches that we're trying to develop. And I think that will, when they get to the US, for those who want to go to college, right, they'll be better prepared. That today they won't want to go to the NBA, who can go to the NBA, will be able to be drafted straight of Africa because they will be a little more polished, type of play when they get there. So to me, it's really like having more infrastructure on the continent and be able to play games more often and having, better coaches. And I think that will kind of reduce that gap.
Well, Ruben, we appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today. We appreciate you sending your son to Duke for 2 years. We're looking forward to watching him develop, and we can't wait. I trust you're going to get to a game or multiple games this year. You're going to get over to see some games.
I hope so. I would do my best to get there a few games.
I am sure. I'm not sure how familiar you are. Have you ever been in Cameron Indoor Stadium before?
No, I haven't. I've seen it from far on the TV. Yeah,
but it's really something, and I'm sure the fans are going to give you quite the welcome to say thanks for sending JoJo our way. So thank you so much for chatting with us today on the Duke Basketball Roundup.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Donald, we are so appreciative of Ruben and the Basketball Africa League, making the time for us to chat with him. Love the conversation. It wasn't like a super in-depth scouting report. You're never going to get that. You're never going to get that from a father talking about his son, but I think he had some really, really interesting things to say about how Joakim has gotten to where he is today. I love the fact it seems like, they were thinking about training and developing back when he was like 8-9 years old, which I thought was a really interesting piece of insight.
And I also like the fact that, JoJo's had a different pathway to this point than most kids that are American his age, right? Like he left America to go play elsewhere because his dad was involved in basketball abroad, and now has decided to come back. And I like the fact that he kind of addressed the fact that, hey, we did want JoJo to get this traditional college experience, and the fact that I guess that might have led to him wanting to come early, to spend 2 years in a system and get more development. Development was the key term here. They're obviously high on Duke's ability to develop JoJo into the player that they think he can become, so they can be potentially a number one pick in the NBA draft in a couple years. But I love the fact that he did a non-traditional path to lead back to a traditional pathway to the NBA, which is through college. And man, we're glad he chose Durham.
Yeah. And as you can probably imagine, my favorite part of the interview was talking about when JoJo and Ruben would stand next to each other and try and measure who was tallest.
Let me tell you, that is something, you don't have to be 7 feet tall to do that. I was doing that with my dad when I was in high school, just like, you do the I'm bigger than you, and just put your hand 6 inches over your dad's head. And the day that I actually passed him, I was like, oh, wow. It was like an anticlimactic moment. It wasn't like him taking pictures, but I will note, because this is not on video, Jason, for those of you who don't know who Ruben Boumtje-Boumtje is, he is bald. He has no hair. JoJo has like 3 inches of hair. So he might have passed him a long time ago when it comes to the hair part of things. But it's funny for him to say, no, he might be 7'2" with shoes on and still growing, because he's just turned 17.
Yeah, it was a great interview. It was a ton of fun. And we're, again, really, really appreciative of the Basketball Africa League for loaning us Ruben for a few minutes to chat about that. Hey, we'll be back here on the Duke Basketball Roundup very, very soon. Plenty of Duke news going around. John Rothstein had some very interesting things to say about the Duke roster. Yeah, we'll talk about that on a future episode the next couple of days. Until then, he is Donald, I am Jason, and this is the Duke Band playing us out and taking us home. Hey, do you know what I got to do last night?
I saw what you got to do last night, but tell us. Some movie that you saw that's pretty big. It's coming out this weekend.
Yeah, I got to see the new Spider-Man film. It was really, really good. As much as Marvel, I think Marvel comic book movies have had kind of quality struggles over the past several years. The Spider-Man movies just keep on just hitting home runs.
Spider-Man's always been their like flagship, or at least one of them, right? We had the Captain America and Iron Man, and then it was like probably after that was Spider-Man. After the the first set of Avengers movies.
This is up there. This might be the best of the Spider-Man movies. It is that good. And the thing I loved about it was it focuses so much on the characters versus like just being about, crazy action scenes. I mean, there's some good fights and stuff, but it's about the emotion of the characters. And I just can't tell you how much I enjoyed that aspect of it. It's definitely worth checking out. It's not as good as the Odyssey. It's not.
I mean, look, I saw the Odyssey last weekend. Oh my God, that's incredible. I actually have it because we saw it in Alamo Drafthouse, so it wasn't IMAX. I got a booking for next week in IMAX because it's taken that long to find any seat that wasn't the front row in any of the IMAXs here in the DMV. I'm going to see it on Tyson's Corner, which for people who live in DC, I'm making a trek for a reason. Like I know I'm about to see some greatness, but it's also one of the bigger screens of the normal IMAXs that we have. So I want to see it and as close to the 1.43 ratio that they recorded in as possible. We have the two Smithsonians that have the 1.43, but those things are sold out other than like, the handicap accessible seats for the rest of the time that Odyssey is in IMAX. But I'm really looking forward to seeing it a second time in IMAX because it was incredible.
Yeah. By the way, IMAX, the company, over the weekend, they announced that most of their theaters, like especially the 70 millimeter theaters, for sure.
There's only like 40 of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Into September. There's the entire, you can't even get a seat like, I'm going to go a month from now. They're still out all the way into September.
Well, the thing is, what people are doing is they're getting, people were buying tickets and then trying to scalp them. And because a lot of these places now, because you have reserved seats, you have until 24 hours before the film, you can cancel and get a refund. So a lot of them are buying seats and then trying to sell them for $300 online. And if they don't sell for $300 online or some astronomical number, they just get their money back. And then so some people have been checking every day for those last minute seats. You're like, oh yeah, there's a seat like, row L, seat 1. For this showing at 10 a.m. if you can get here in 12 minutes. Like they have some of those things, but it's been pretty solidly sold out in a lot of these places here in DC. So I'm glad I got the IMAX viewing before it. I think Spider-Man comes in next week into IMAX here. So I'm glad I'm seeing Odyssey before Spider-Man takes over.
Yeah, they're both excellent. I mean, Odyssey's next level, but Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man's next. I'm definitely going to see that. So big fan.
Yeah, enjoy.